This morning, a cold case involving the death of a 4-year-old boy with ties to our area may now be solved after 5 decades. Police in Fairfax County, Virginia say genetic testing has identified the body of Carl Bryant.
In late spring of 1972, the body of a young boy was discovered in a creek in Virginia. For decades, the public had no clear image of what the boy even looked like, until 2003 when the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children released a facial reconstruction. Over the years, investigators pursued countless leads in the hope of uncovering his identity and finding the person responsible for his untimely death. Now, more than 50 years later, both his name and the truth behind his tragic story have finally come to light. Before we hop into the case, we do have a quick word from today's sponsor, which is June's Journey. June's Journey is an enchanting hidden object mystery game set against the dazzling backdrop of the 1920s, 1927 to be precise. You'll step into the stylish shoes of June Parker, a sharp and determined woman recognizable by her signature maroon cloche hat, as she sets out to uncover the truth behind her sister's untimely death. As the investigation unfolds, June navigates a web of family secrets, unexpected twists, and a vibrant cast of characters. The game features hundreds of beautifully illustrated scenes, each one offering a mix of relaxing gameplay and satisfying mental challenge. Best of all, it's available anytime as long as you have Wi-Fi, whether you're curled up at home or out and about. Download it for free on iPhone, Android, Amazon, or desktop via Facebook. As you advance through the game, you'll gradually expand and enhance your own private island, eventually unlocking more islands. Each month brings a fresh collection of themed items, often inspired by the season or time of year, giving you new ways to decorate and personalize your space. This right here is my island, and as you can see, it is full. I've spent years on it, and yes, I am a bit proud of it. If you want to be transported to the 1920s and find some hidden objects yourself, you can click the link in the description of this video or use the QR code on the screen. Now let's get back to the regular program. The case that we're covering today is one that just had a recent update in it. Not just any update, but one that finally reveals the identity of the victim. This is such a heartbreaking case, and most of the time when a John or Jane Doe is identified, that's part one solved. And if they're a victim of homicide, investigators now have to piece together evidence and clues to hopefully uncover who took their life. With this one, though, it seems we may have our answer. Authorities, though, are hoping to discover even more and asking the public currently for help. This case may be light when it comes to the amount of information we have, but it's quite heavy with the information at hand. With all of that being said, let's get right into it. On June 13th, 1972, a teenager local to the area of Lorton in Fairfax County, Virginia, stumbled upon the body of a child in Massey Creek under the old Colchester Road Bridge. The child was a young African-American boy, completely unclothed. Now, as many of you know, for my videos here on my channel, I do try to track down newspaper articles from newspapers.com, but unfortunately, I was not able to find any newspaper articles for this case. It was during the press conference, though, that we learned a little bit more about the discovery of this boy's body, and we found out that the teenager was a male, and he was riding his bike normally, like he did any other day. And as he crossed the bridge, he saw below in the creek this boy's body. The teenager was obviously terrified, immediately rode home, told his mom what he found, and it was his mother that notified local authorities. Fairfax County investigators took it from there. An autopsy would reveal the boy was believed to be between 3 to 6 years old and had been deceased for less than 24 hours at the time that he was found by the teenager. When one hears of a little boy found nude in a creek, one is going to assume homicide, but the autopsy would verify that as well. This little boy's cause of death is blunt force trauma. This was in no way an accident. What happened to this little innocent boy? It is murder. Someone was 100% responsible for this, and authorities wanted to find out who that person was, but firstly, they didn't even know who this little boy was. There was nothing on this little boy to help identify him, and as time went on, authorities were hoping, by spreading the word of the discovery of his remains, that someone would come forward claiming that they knew who he was. No tips, though, got them closer to giving him his name back. This little boy was alone and unnamed in an area he may not have even originally been from. Who was his family? Where were they? Wasn't someone missing him? This was 1972. This was a long time before the breakthrough of DNA testing and an even longer time before the powerful tools of genetic genealogy. Back then, investigators had few resources. All they could do was wait, hope, and pray that someone somewhere would come forward with the boy's name or a piece of his story. Time passed, and with no new leads and no one stepping forward to claim him, authorities were faced with a heartbreaking reality. They might never know who he was. In the absence of answers, they made the painful but compassionate decision to give him something he had been denied in life: dignity. So they gave him a proper burial. Wanting to honor the child with the respect, a local church group stepped in. They decided to give the unidentified boy a placeholder name, a symbol that he mattered even if no one knew who he was or where he came from. Refusing to let him be forgotten, the group arranged for his burial at Coleman Cemetery in Alexandria, Virginia. There, surrounded by strangers who chose to care, he was finally laid to rest. His memory gently preserved by a community that never knew him but mourned for him all the same. As many of you already know, especially if you're a regular viewer of my channel, unidentified individuals are often referred to as Jane or John Does. To help distinguish them from one another, they're sometimes given names. These names are usually based on a physical trait, an article of clothing, or the location where they were discovered, offering at least some form of identity while their true names remain unknown. This boy is often referred to as John Doe or John Fairfax Doe. Both of these names, of course, having to do with the area he was found. For decades, this little John Doe was a mystery, a little boy lost in time without his actual name, a story, or a family to claim him. Still, though, people pursued, and through the years, there would be sporadic updates. In 2003, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children took a significant step in trying to identify the young boy by creating a computer-generated facial reconstruction. This digitally rendered image was designed to show what the boy may have looked like in life, in the hopes that someone might recognize him. The release of the sketch prompted a wave of public interest, and several tips were submitted as a result. Unfortunately, despite the renewed attention and a handful of promising possibilities, none of the leads ultimately panned out. The boy's identity remained a mystery, and the case once again grew cold. This reconstruction photo was the public's first look at what the boy possibly looked like while alive. Of course, this is just a reconstruction photo, so it's not going to be exact, but it gives us a good idea. The following year, in a renewed effort to breathe life back into this decades-old case, investigators made a surprising discovery. They found samples of hair tucked away in the original case file.
It was surprising because when we got the hair, when we opened the package, it was literally little specks, like razor stubble. And so the lab, Estrella in California, had said that normally they require at least 2 centimeters of hair to do testing. And I said, well, I don't know if I even have 2 millimeters of hair to send you. And they said, well, send it anyway, we'll see what we can do. And they were able to develop a profile. So it was a pleasant surprise.
Recognizing its potential, the hair was promptly sent to the FBI for forensic testing. Scientists were able to extract mitochondrial DNA from the samples, a form of genetic material passed down through the maternal line that can sometimes provide valuable clues even when other DNA is degraded or unavailable. In 2013, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children's Team Adam, a specialized group made up of retired law enforcement professionals, partnered with local authorities to take another look at the cold case. Their overall goal was to exhume the child's remains in hopes that new forensic technology might finally provide answers. Due to the limitations of mitochondrial DNA, which can only provide partial genetic information, detectives were motivated to pursue more advanced nuclear DNA testing, a method capable of producing a more complete and potentially identifiable profile. However, before that could happen, they faced a major obstacle: locating the boy's burial site. Years of poor record keeping combined with damage from severe storms had left the exact location completely unclear. This made the process of finding and exhuming his remains incredibly difficult, delaying their efforts to finally uncover his true identity. This is around the same time that 2 possible matches emerged during the investigation: missing children Solomon Rose and George Barksdale. For a brief moment, there was hope that one of them might finally give the unidentified boy a name. Solomon Rose, 3 years old, was last seen at a shopping center with an unknown juvenile female in Baltimore, Maryland on April 1st, 1972. George Barksdale, 4 years old, was last seen outside a West Baltimore church on April 20th, 1969. However, after DNA comparisons were conducted, both leads were ultimately ruled out. The boy was not Solomon, nor was he George. Both boys are still missing today. From there, NCMEC, which is the abbreviation for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, decided to partner with Estrella Forensics, a lab known for its cutting-edge techniques in recovering DNA from even the most challenging samples. In 2021, a breakthrough was finally achieved. A viable genetic profile was successfully developed from the hair samples. This profile was then handed over to Innovative Forensic Investigations, a team specializing in forensic genealogy. Forensic genealogy, which we've talked about so many times here on my channel, is a method that combines traditional genealogical research with advanced DNA analysis to help solve crimes or identify unknown individuals, such as unidentified remains. Through careful analysis and extensive research, they identified a promising lead, a potential maternal aunt living in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. For the first time in decades, there was a real and tangible connection, a thread that would ultimately lead them to finding out this child's true identity. Further investigation, after authorities traveled to Philadelphia to speak to the woman in person, uncovered that the woman believed to be the maternal aunt had a sister named Vera Bryant, who passed away in Philadelphia in 1980. Records showed that before her death, Vera had 2 sons, Carl, born in 1968, and James, born in 1972. Authorities exhumed the remains of Vera in 2023 and compared her DNA against the John Doe's DNA. After 2 rounds of thorough testing, Estrella Forensics confirmed in April of 2025 that Vera Bryant was, in fact, the biological mother of this unidentified child. This long-awaited confirmation marked a major breakthrough in the case, finally connecting the boy to his family after more than 5 decades. The little John Doe finally has his name back, and in life, he was known as Carl Matthew Bryant. He was only 4 years old when his life was taken. Investigators had actually gathered DNA samples as well from surviving relatives, including the man believed to be Carl's father. In addition to the genetic evidence, they also obtained birth certificates and combed through historical records to help piece together the family story and further confirm the child's identity. This boy's identity, though, was not released to the public until July 1st of 2025, and along with the identification, we learned a little more about his backstory, and trust me, it is devastating and infuriating. According to family members, in June of 1972, Vera Bryant left Philadelphia with her 2 young sons and her boyfriend, James Hedgepeth. Hedgepeth, not the biological father of either child and who is also now deceased, told her family that they were heading to Virginia to visit some of his relatives. However, when the couple arrived in Virginia, the children were no longer with them. Upon returning to Philadelphia, Vera told her family that the boys had stayed behind in Virginia with Hedgepeth's relatives. After that, neither Carl nor James was ever seen again by the family. When it comes to the boyfriend, James Hedgepeth, he wasn't someone with a squeaky clean record. He had a conviction for murder in the 1960s, so I guess there's the answer for the question of whether he was capable of taking someone else's life or not. Based on the evidence, police believe that either Vera, James Hedgepeth, or both were responsible for Carl's death, and they strongly suspect that 6-month-old James was sadly also killed. Now, since James was only 6 months old, he was just a baby, there is the possibility that he could have been sold to someone and has no memory of it because he was so young, but that has yet to be discovered. Given Carl's confirmed murder, though, law enforcement has good reason to believe James also met a very tragic end. Investigators believe that the boys may have been murdered somewhere along the route between Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and Middlesex County, Virginia. While Carl's remains were found, James's have never been located, and authorities believe they may still today be somewhere along that same path. On the screen is Vera and James's possible route that they took in 1972. Authorities are now urging anyone who may have known Vera Bryant or James Hedgepeth to come forward with any information, no matter how small it may seem. They are also reaching out to law enforcement agencies across Virginia, Pennsylvania, and beyond, requesting they review cases involving unidentified infant remains from the 1970s in hopes of uncovering new leads that could finally bring closure to this decades-old mystery. If you have any information regarding this case, you are urged to contact the Fairfax County's Major Crimes Bureau at 703-246-7800. Tips can also be submitted anonymously through Crime Solvers by phone at 1-866-411-8477.
The boyfriend is now deceased. He died several years ago. We'd like to talk to people who knew a little bit about him. He was the one who served time in prison and the sentence, I think, in 1962. Got out, became involved in a relationship with the mom. He did not father the two children. But in the event that he shared any information with family or friends since 1972, even though he's now deceased, we'd like to know about that.
Carol Schweister, program manager of NCMEC's Forensic Services Unit, stated, "After 53 years, we finally know that John Lorton Doe in 1972 is Carl Bryant." This identification highlights the incredible power of persistence, collaboration, and unwavering hope. It's the result of many organizations and agencies who refused to let this child's story be forgotten. As many of you know here on my channel, I do like it to be mostly fact-based. It's very rare that I give personal opinions, but I have to say that I don't understand senseless murder in general, but I will never understand how you can be a parent and take the life of your child. Without solid proof, I can't sit here on YouTube and say Vera Bryant 100% took her child's life, but if she had a part in it or knew what happened to him, I do not know how she lived with herself until she died in 1980. That is a whole 8 years every day knowing your child is not growing up because of you. In this case, possibly more than one child, 2 children, 2 of your own children. Considering James Hedgepeth was the one with a solid criminal past involving murder, yes, we have to primarily look at him. But of course, she was the mother and she was there. We have seen people do some pretty horrific things in this world, and truly, it doesn't surprise me anymore. But being a mother and having any part of it is what gets me. Even the knowledge of it. As of right now, no photos of Carl or James have been released to the public, and that is if their family even has any. Also, lastly, another very sad part of all of this is they still cannot locate Carl's grave. They are going to be putting up a little bench, though, for him nearby in the cemetery, engraved with his actual name. You know, the ones responsible for this may have wanted people to forget these boys' names, but so many people are remembering them and honoring them 53 years later. Of course, they shouldn't have to. This shouldn't have happened, but they are, because there are people that care. There was some of the Bryant family present at the press conference, and my heart definitely goes out to them as well, because I couldn't imagine having a distant family member that I thought was just out there this whole time, that grew up and has a life of their own, and I just haven't seen them. I haven't had any connection with them. And then to find out what actually happened, that they met a horrible fate over 50 years ago, and I've gone my whole life not even knowing that. If you are interested in watching the press conference, though, it is linked down below in the description of this video. I want to thank you all, though, for taking a little bit of time out of your day to hear about this boy's case, and I hope that eventually we can find out what happened to James. If there are any other cases that you want me to cover here on my channel, make sure to send those requests over to gabulosiscaserequests@gmail.com. I hope that you all have an amazing rest of your day wherever you are. Stay safe like always, and I will hopefully see you in the next one. Bye. Do remember that today's video is sponsored by June's Journey. Again, if you want to be transported to 1927 and help solve some mysteries, click the link in the description of today's video or use the QR code on the screen. Thank you, June's Journey, for sponsoring yet again another one of my videos.